We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Hello, Mavs fans. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. You're joined by myself, Kirk Henderson, and Josh Bowe. We're both editors over at MavsMoneyball.com. Thank you for hanging out with us. It is about 11:40. The Dallas Mavericks just sent the Los Angeles Clippers packing in Game 6 of their first-round series, 114-101. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We are moving on to the second round. That was a pretty fun game. That might have been aesthetically the most fun game of the series. That was a good time. Crowd was awesome.
Crowd was great.
Yeah.
I'm we knock the Mavs environment sometimes just because I think that the lower bowl can really be a place to be seen. But playoffs, we've seen it now 2 out of the last 3 years. The Mavericks are in the playoffs. The home crowd turns it up. Really turns it up. It's fantastic. I'll tell you what I was thinking. I'm approaching 40. I'm old. And as I'm watching the fourth quarter of that game, it reminded me of the opening scene from the ridiculously 80s classic for The Running Man. Arnold Schwarzenegger stars in it. And at the start of that movie, which I recommend to everyone because it's just so perfect and strange and funny and great action scenes. But there's a part in the beginning where all these prisoners are trying to escape from jail, and it takes them like just repeated attempts to break out of jail. And finally, when they do, there's this like unbelievably weird synth 80s tune that's playing as everybody is running in slow motion as they break out of prison. And that's what the fourth quarter felt like for me, because this has been a long time coming. The Dallas Mavericks were eliminated from the playoffs in Luka Doncic's first 2 attempts, 2020 and 2021. And to get past them in this way, would I have liked Kyrie Irving to play? Absolutely. Not Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard to play? Absolutely. But I don't care. Beating this specific team, and in a way that really felt like it closed a chapter on the Clippers. They have some soul searching to do is pretty pleasing. They didn't totally die. Like I felt like they would sort of roll over in that game pretty early. And
they were trying to like a billion different times in that game, and Ty Lue was trying to help them. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, how do we really talk about this game? Because the 4 quarters sort of feel like 4 distinct chapters of a story, because it was very every quarter was very different from the last, at least as far as this was the first game in a while I haven't taken notes. So I want to get your perspective on it, since I was kind of in and out while I was watching this game, like doing chores and such.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much outside of. I mean, this game just more and more proved that games 1 and 4 for the Clippers were the anomalies. Like it's just more of, it was game 2, it was game 3, it was game 5 all over again. It was the Mavericks defensive game plan being executed to perfection, and it started right away in the first quarter where they are not giving up the rim and they are letting the right people want to shoot open shots. And it's smothering individual defense against a very unimaginative, not very complex Clippers offense where they just kind of give it to their 2 stars and just like, all right, go do stuff. And the Mavericks are like, all right, well, Derek Jones Jr. is going to be Scottie Pippen 2.0 on Paul George, and he's not going to score anymore. And then Harden, is James Harden. And all of a sudden Kyrie Irving is like guarding James Harden. And it's like, wait, what? And then it's working. So, they're funneling guys into the help. They did that all night. They're driving guys to the sideline when they want to drive them to the sideline. They're not giving up the middle. They're just not giving up the paint. They're not giving up the rim. And they're like, okay, if you're going to make some threes, then we'll concede that. And the Clippers didn't make threes tonight. They didn't make game threes in game 5. So really the defense has been it's been like this almost the whole series. Offensively, it was kind of a roller coaster because it was like first quarter, it was like, okay, things are getting on track because they're getting out and they're running. The second quarter was terrible. Like it was all the worst Mavericks habits happened in that quarter. And then the second half, it was, oh yeah, Kyrie exists. And he goes from 20 points to 30 points in the second half. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, the second half, it was just a bombardment of Kyrie. Luka still controlling the game, even though he doesn't have a jumper anymore.
Well, yeah, let's circle back to that the second half of this because the Luka played one of the weirdest games I can remember him playing, where it felt like it quite literally didn't matter. Because he was obviously still impactful, but it just, God dang, his shot is broken. So we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
That second quarter was particularly wild. So I would, just for full disclosure, I missed the first quarter. I mean, I came in and it was still being played, but I was out coaching flag football, getting boat raced by a team. Like my team was all 6, 7, and 8-year-olds and got just ripped by a select team of 8. So it's like I walked through the door and I'm already in a bad mood because I had to console like crying 6 and 7-year-olds. And the Mavericks game was on, and the Mavericks are up, but that second quarter where it just felt like, let's call it for what it is. Luka was trying to end the game. And tried to end the game repeatedly with big shots. And he did this really amazing thing where he missed every single one of them.
He was only, 1 of 10 from 3 for the game. Yeah, I mean, it was straight up. Just
he was like, 1 of 10 for 3 in the game.
Yes, he was.
He is 16 of 67 in the playoffs right now. And again, we'll come back to Luka.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's remarkable.
I think the thing about the second quarter, and we don't need to harp on the second quarter because it was literally the only bad thing. Mm-hmm. But it was just, they got caught doing the bad, like it was like all their bad habits from the past like 4 years happened in that second.
Right.
Quarter. It was just Luka walk the ball up, high screen, switch, dribble more, step back 3. And like he has to hit step back 3s against that kind of defense, but they just didn't do anything else. Like where are the Kyrie screens? Where's the off ball stuff? Where's the Gafford high post stuff?
Where was the pushing of the pace in that quarter?
Yeah. Well, their defense was probably their worst defensive quarter, and it was harder for them to push because they just weren't taking the ball out of the basket a little too much. So
that's true.
That corresponded to it. But otherwise, I mean, after that, I mean, they came out at halftime and they're like, okay, that's enough.
We're gonna that third quarter, and again, led by Kyrie Irving's just sheer basketball brilliance.
What is that? How does this guy go? This is the second game in a row he's gone. Didn't he have 2 points in the first half?
He did 2 points, and the only 2 points were off of a run out he got from Luka, where Luka basically threw the ball directly over his head. It landed in the pocket, and he laid it in. It was gorgeous.
Is he trolling? Is this on
no? So I have a theory. I have a theory. Did you watch that game on mute? I know you do that sometimes.
No, I didn't watch it, but I was on the national broadcast.
Did you hear Lisa Salters in the fourth quarter? She gave this little anecdote about Kyrie Irving. It was an extended anecdote. And I wish I could go find it. Someone will probably send it to me later. It was really, really quite incredible. where what she said was she's talked to Kyrie, and Kyrie said to her that it's the series of emotions that a player like him and other great players go through when they finally meet someone and play with someone that is absolutely on their level or even better, is the emotions that go through a person are quite difficult sometimes. And obviously it's not the first time Kyrie's done something like this playing with LeBron James, but he has come to enjoy, like, just Salters talked about how he's come to enjoy and accept his role and thrive within what the Mavericks are trying to do. So it's so funny because, you know, we get folks in here almost every game, and it's usually Luka fans or Kyrie fans. And, like, to be quite candid, people like that just drive me fucking crazy because I root for the Dallas Mavericks. I don't root for Luka or Kyrie. I root for the team. And when you hear somebody like Kyrie talking about it in the context of the team, it's such a reminder of how fucking stupid these arguments are, because these players know. And Kyrie Salters, I mean, she talked for like 2 minutes straight. It was a really interesting part of the broadcast. And it was just hearing from her. And I would like, you know, I want to go listen to it again about Kyrie. So, and it's not accepting a role, because Kyrie's, you know, he and Luka are on the same level in this offense. They just do different things at different times. And it's really incredible. Like, we always often talk about it. It's like, you know, it's, oh, Batman, oh, it's Robin. It's like, no, this is a pair of headlining superstars that have figured out how to make it work in really, really magical ways that are fun to watch. And, you know, you talked about this briefly before. Offensively in this series, they still have different heights to reach. They just haven't done certain things that they've done in the regular season. So Kyrie turning it on in the third quarter, I mean, there's just got to be something about how he's playing reserved, and he's like, okay, now is my time. Because the third quarter, you know, and again, this is way too long of a soliloquy, I apologize. The Dallas Mavericks, in my entire life, going back to forever, the third quarter has been a disaster zone for so much of my fandom, where it's like, oh shit, what's going to happen now? What did Rick Carlisle do at halftime? What did Avery Johnson do? What did Donnie Nelson do? Oh no, because the Mavericks just die in third quarters. I'm sorry. If you're a 20+ year Mavs fan, you know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. When these guys come out in the third quarter, and it's been this way since like March 1st on, they come out in the third quarter and they're like, fuck this, we're taking over. It's amazing.
Yeah. A lot of that, it's Kyrie, because his second half, like, he's incredible in the second half. I just don't like. He's reserving things. Maybe he thinks Luka is a better starter, and like maybe that just works out better for them. Maybe he can feel his way into a game and look at stuff at halftime and come out better. But also, they just have. I mean, I said this after game 2. They're a defensive team now. So when was the last time we've seen a Mavericks team just beat the shit out of an opponent like this repeatedly? Like 2011, like, I mean, everything comes back to the last time I've seen this was 2011, because even that 2022 team, which was much improved defensively, it wasn't like this. Like, it was kind of like that team was really good defensively, because I think they were maybe playing a little over their heads defensively, and they just kind of had some all-time seasons from Dorian, Reggie Bullock, and they kind of just had a connectedness that this team has too. But this team has that connectedness, and they're huge and strong, and they can jump and they can run.
But the verticality in 2011 played such a huge role, with Tyson Chandler's like endless limbs basically contesting everybody right at the bucket. This game is more physical than any of that 2011 series. Because you remember Dirk getting to the free throw line a gajillion times against Oklahoma City on little bump stuff. I don't think any of the things Dirk was good at in his prime would get called for fouls now, because anybody gets within 15 feet of the Mavericks basket, the Mavericks just hammer them. I'm not complaining. They're winning, but it is wild to watch sometimes where I'm just like, how is that not a foul?
Kind of like the Lakers defense of 2020, except they're getting that benefit. Like, they're getting they weren't getting that whistle, you know, earlier in the season.
Yeah. Damian says in the chat, Mavericks held Clippers under 100 for 4 games of the series. Defense win championship. Fantastic. I'm gonna get used to it at some point. And honestly, it's making me overly bullish against the Thunder, because the Thunder are skillful, but they don't have power. And it's a different. I don't know. Jalen Williams is pretty amazing. He's gonna be a problem for the Mavericks. We'll circle back to that series later. But
yeah,
this was just. I
mean, they're just the bigger, stronger, more athletic team, which is, I mean, this is the end game of what we've been talking about since they drafted Luka, where it's like you got to pay for athletes and you got to pay for talent, because the Mavericks, for what felt like the first 3-4 years of Luka being here, outside of the KP trade, they've basically been like, well, let's try to moneyball this. Like, why pay for more when we could pay less for this guy that can do 80% of what this guy does at a smaller contract? And at a certain point, it's like, no, you got to trade the picks to get the guys to get in here and be better. And I think that's the crux of what I'm going to write tonight, because when you think about those first two playoff series against the Clippers, 2020 and 2021, the main story was, wow, Luka is incredible. He is amazing. And the rest of his roster stinks. Like, that was the major takeaway when each of those series ended, because Luka was incredible in each of those series, and the Mavericks could not win because after Luka, the team was just not good enough, and the Clippers had what felt like not just Kawhi and Paul George, but it felt like every other guy they had. Zubats, they had Nicholas Batum, Marcus Morris when he was still useful, Patrick Beverley. Like, it just felt like they just had a bunch of guys after them that complemented and were just significantly better than what the Mavericks were trying to roll out, which just felt like, like Walmart brand version of role players, which are cheaper and can be more effective at times. But when it comes down to it, which one's better? It was the Clippers role players. And now this series, this was probably, I mean, Luka was still overall pretty good in terms of like impacting winning, but this might have been Luka's worst playoff series, by the way. It's
might have been. He's not played that many, and it absolutely was.
Yeah, like he shot under 40%, or he shot right about 40%, under 25% from three. He's never shot that poorly in any playoff series. And the Mavericks won, and they won pretty convincingly. And if Luka played like this in the 2020 and 2021, the Mavericks would have gotten swept in both of those series. Now they're winning in 6 games. So that's the difference. They finally got over that hump and have churned through the roster and found the right guys and have paid for guys, because these guys weren't cheap. PJ Washington, first-round pick. Daniel Gafford, pick swap that they used to get another first-rounder. Kyrie Irving was a first-round pick, and your starter, Dorian Finney-Smith. Like, they didn't bargain bin shop, except for Derrick Jones Jr., which is pretty amazing. But for the most part, all these new guys that they've gotten, Derek Lively, top 12 pick. That's not nothing. Like, they finally spent on talent, and I think it showed in this series. And it's the difference from 2024 compared to 2021 and 2020.
That's right. Well, guys, we're the halfway point in the show. Now is my every show shilling attempt, where I'm going to ask you, those of you who are here live, please consider going down and liking the stream. Those of you who have not subscribed to the show, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We are 100, actually it's under 100, away from 3,000 subscribers, which would be pretty exciting. And effectively, Josh and I had a randomly set goal of 5,000, but I didn't know what was achievable during the year, and we've gone from a little over 1,200 to almost 3,000 over the course of the season. After this show, I'll be hosting the secondary live show until the wee hours of the morning, where we can celebrate this victory, and you guys can come talk basketball with me or anything else that's on your mind. Those of you who are listening on the audio stream, please go ahead and leave a review. If you want to talk basketball with me, there's various ways you can reach out to me. Very pleased and enjoy this community that we have. And it is a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to doing it for at least another 4 games, at least 4 more games, which is pretty fantastic to say. All right, now before we get back to the show, I'm going to insert some audio ads. For those of you listening on the stream, please, I'll be right back, and we appreciate you guys hanging out.
If you're a basketball junkie, then you know there's no better time of year than the NBA playoffs. Twice a week, JJ Redick is cooking on his podcast, The Old Man and the Three. He has guys come on in all stages of their careers to talk about the league and share stories you won't hear anywhere else, including Devin Booker on why he talks so much trash, Ray Allen's epic free throw competitions with LeBron in Miami, and the moment Tyrese Halliburton knew Pascal Siakam would be a good fit in Indy. In addition to player interviews, every Monday JJ breaks down the top 3 things happening around the NBA with unmatched analysis, not outlandish takes, and is often joined by masterminds of the game like Tim Legler to dive deep on rookie reports, trade breakdowns, and why is mean mugging now a tech. You won't find another outlet that covers the game as comprehensively and with such insight as JJ does it on The Old Man and the Three. Make this your companion podcast during the playoffs. Listen to The Old Man and the Three ad-free on Wondery Plus or wherever you get your podcasts.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Okay, before we get back in it, we also have a couple of people who've left us tips. Want to give them a shout out. Wade Lamb says, I got to travel early tomorrow morning, so my wife isn't going to let me stay up late for this show. I'll have to listen tomorrow. Thanks in advance, Kirk and Josh. Go Mavs. Shout out to you, Wade. Really appreciate that. And shout out to Albert as well. Albert left us a tip saying third quarter was great balanced attack from many. Josh and I are always very grateful for the super chats and the tips. That's very helpful to us. All right, so what else should we talk about on this one before we get out of Dodge? Because I think we'll probably do another show about the Thunder prior to that, not only because the content mill never lies, or never stops, but because I'm tired.
Yeah, I can't think about another team right now.
Right.
I mean, we have to say it. Remember one of the things going into this series that we thought could be a potential disadvantage for the Mavericks was coaching.
Yep. And
decidedly, Jason Kidd, even if you want to call it by default, because Ty Lue seemingly just made a bunch of self-inflicted mistakes, the Mavericks outcoached the Clippers in this series. Now it's easier to do that when you've got a roster that's relatively healthy, although Luka was definitely banged up, and missing Kawhi makes things awful. But basically, when every inexplicable coaching moment, anytime I was like, "What is he thinking? What is he doing?" That was almost always with Ty Lue and the Clippers. I almost never thought that with Kidd and the Mavericks. I know some people were really mad about that Game 4 ending and how the Mavericks were guarding Harden. And I understand it didn't work. And we wrote about it. I wrote about it. We talked about it. But that was less I don't know if that felt more like coaching and more just they tried something, didn't work, and they didn't adjust fast enough, which is different from what we usually complain about with the coaching staff, which is why aren't they doing anything at all? They're just they're not. I know some fans were maybe mad about some timeouts called throughout the series, but really, I don't know what Tyler's doing, starting PJ Tucker when you're in an elimination game in the year of 2024, when you're getting killed by a defense that's mauling you. Good luck. Tucker was terrible. His numbers look okay, but the Mavericks weren't guarding him. And then in the third quarter, Luka can't make a jumper to save his life, and they start double teaming Luka in the pick and roll, and the Mavericks immediately, boom, boom. The first 2 possessions in the second half where Ty Lue decides to send 2 on the ball and Luka, corner 3, PJ Washington, Derek Lively fouled at the rim. 5 points, I think. I don't know. I can't remember if Lively made both 3 of those, but they scored on both possessions.
Yep.
And I was like, that's it. Like, what are you doing? Like, me and you have talked about this, and I'm a little concerned for other NBA coaches, like what's going on. Good for Mavericks fans. but like, we've talked about this. One-on-one on Luka, one-on-one on Kyrie. Let all these other role players try to beat you in one-on-one situations. Like, why is PJ Washington getting so many open corner threes? Why are Gafford and Lively getting these lobs? Just don't stay attached. Let Luka score. Try to outscore you. Like, we've seen it when they lost 5 out of 6. That's what teams were doing to them. And it's like teams just stopped. It's crazy. I don't know what it is, but Jason Kidd won this round. That's for sure.
And the chat is ablaze at this take, Josh, which is particularly funny. And that's fine. And we're not Kidd defenders. You know, I've called for his firing like 19 times over the past 3 years. It is what it is. I'm a fan. So
it's fine. But Ty Lue sucked in this series.
Ty Lue did, but here's some things that I also think the Kidd did that are getting sort of undervalued. He shortened the rotation in a way that I was not expecting. Dante Exum, who'd been such an important regular season contributor, absolutely died on the vine. Josh Green, who coming into the playoffs, if you go look at his last several games, looked like he had forgotten how to play basketball. And Josh Green played enormously important minutes and played a little bit more every series. And that was really fantastic. I'm just shocked at that. So it's like, knowing when not to play guys, when to pull them in is as important as the ATO stuff and the the calling the timeouts. And frankly, during the season, we see some things that are baffling. But Matt Moore, enemy of the program, said to me tonight. He said, he basically said, this game and what the Mavericks are doing are an argument for March basketball being more important than January basketball. And there's something to that. It's not like we're exactly loving giving Kidd flowers, but I think he did a great job because there's a lot of stuff that I think that they could have overreacted to between the Harden stuff, between how bad Luka was shooting, all those things. They trusted their own process and they ended up with the win. I mean, the only thing I think any of us would really like to see is these Mavericks. This is now Kidd's 4th playoff series with the Mavericks. They're 0 for 4 in game ones. So let's not have any more feeling out games. Can we just go beat a team? Could the Mavericks do that on Tuesday? Anyway.
Yeah, I would say that. And then the other thing they need to work on is they need to run some more offense.
Sure. Some of that's Luka too.
No, I know. Some of that's he can only control so much. Mm-hmm. It's the playoffs, and these are high leverage possessions, and the stars are going to do different things. But they were doing some really cool stuff on offense in March, and maybe that's just it's March. Maybe that's March regular season basketball. Maybe it just doesn't matter. But I would like to see them try to incorporate some of that stuff to prevent the 18-point second quarter. Just do a little bit more there. But that's a nitpick. Yep. I really like your point about the rotation stuff because lineup wise, they were pretty there was not a terrible lineup that he stuck to for a very long time.
In comparison to Lou in specific, who kept doing what is happening lineup changes.
Yeah, it took Lou till an elimination game to cut Westbrook out of the lineup, even though he'd been killing them all series. Took him till game 6 to cut Mason Plumlee, who had been killing them all series. I think Norm Powell, didn't start Norm Powell, even though he was probably their second most effective offensive player in this series, and too little too late there. But yeah, Kidd, even I know people, there is a segment of fans that really hate the Maxey PJ small ball lineup. But I'm sorry, but the numbers, it's really good. It works. It's been working. And when it doesn't work, game 4 was the first game it really started to not work. And then game 5 comes out and he doesn't play it. And he plays Maxey with a center every time Maxey's on the floor. That's pretty quick. That's the stuff I think a lot of people didn't expect Kidd to make, those kind of.
Because he's not done it. He's been he wants to trust his own gut and feel. And we've circled back to this so many times the last 25 games or so, but these rule changes just so lean into Jason Kidd's identity as a basketball player. Jason Kidd was an exceptionally physical player. And it's wild watching the team take on elements of his personality like that. I heard a very interesting take that made me laugh. Bill Simmons, of all people, went to game 5, and he's always pretty hard on the Mavericks. He doesn't really seem to like him. And he said, Luka just never shuts up. But one of the side parts of Luka always chattering, always talking, is that a lot of the Mavericks have seemed to taken on, and he named Kyrie specifically, have really adopted his like absolutely manically insane energy and honed it into vibes being fantastic, because the team doesn't necessarily adopt Luka's, like complaining and such, but just because Luka plays basketball ferociously. Like there's no way you could argue against that. And so that was just kind of an interesting take and something I've been thinking of in relation to both their offense and their defense. And now I'm just rambling. So I'm tired.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, the only other thing I can think to talk about, besides hitting individual players, like
we got to talk about the dunk, the Gafford dunk.
Yeah, Gafford, his best game of the series.
So Gafford, for everybody who didn't see this, and I don't know what you're doing in here if you didn't see the game, Gafford put a shoulder into Zoo and drove him under the basket and dunked on him in a way that felt like a manifestation of exercising demons. It was incredible.
Kind of encapsulated the differences between the two teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was what I was going to lead into, is the Mavericks' athletic advantage in the series, which again, I cannot believe I'm saying the Mavericks had a decided athletic advantage after the teams I have watched from even like 2012 till now. I mean, even the 2011 team wasn't like super athletic. They dominated the steals blocks almost every game. Combined 10 steals, 10 steals and blocks tonight. The Clippers had 6. Like almost every game, the discrepancy was that big. The Mavericks would have like 13 or 14 steals and blocks, and the Clippers would have like 8 or 9. Yeah. And it's like, I know that's not everything. And I know that's like steals don't necessarily tell you, or blocks tell you how good you're playing defense. But man, those splash plays, they still matter. It's not like they don't matter. Like if you're racking up that many splash defensive plays, you're creating turnovers, you're causing havoc, you're denying easy shots that the opponent's trying to rely on. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy just how athletic defensively this team is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And remember we talked about this at the end of the season, last season? Like they were one of the worst teams in terms of steals and blocks and all the athletic stats. Now they're one of the best. I don't have the numbers updated for this game, and they might go down a little bit because, funny enough, 10 combined steals and blocks is a little low for the Mavericks in the playoff. No, I got it right here. So they averaged 7.2 steals per game in this playoff run and 6.3 blocks. The 6.3 blocks, second amongst all playoff teams.
That's crazy.
The 7.2 steals were 7th among the 16 teams. And they were right. If you added up steals and blocks together, they were right around the top of all the playoff teams and stocks average per game. Which you would never think that about a Mavericks team in a million years before this one. So it just goes to show just how dominant defensively this team was. And
that's right.
They made them Clippers look slow and old. And that's like been what teams have been doing to the Mavericks for the last while.
Gerardo in the chat asks, he's like, why does this feel so anticlimactic? And the answer to that is Josh and I are old and we just don't have the juice after a long week of work. Because I tell you what, man, that game 5, I had a great time. Don't get me wrong. I was up till 3:30 in the morning and I just can't do that anymore. And I will keep doing it. Like I just need to inject caffeine directly into my eyeballs. But yeah, I mean, that was like, we've not, we briefly touched on Lively. We touched on some of the other players. It's, I'm just.
I wouldn't even talk about the offensive rebounds.
Sure.
10 offensive rebounds in the first quarter, most in a playoff quarter since 2007.
New York Knicksian.
18. Like, Lively and Green had 8 off the bench, offensive rebounds combined. Our team's gonna scout that, like, when Josh Green's baseline, he's going to sneak baseline and grab an offensive rebound.
I don't even know if he's supposed to, because it feels like he makes a choice where he's like, you know what, I'm going to go in here and poke the ball.
He gets it like every time. Like our team's going to be like, hey, when you're guarding Josh Green in the corner, maybe put a body on him. But like credit to Green, like that's the other team's problem, not his. Like,
that's true.
That's what he's on the floor for. I thought it was hilarious when the Clippers went small in the third quarter, I think. Their first sub, I think, was they took Zubats out and they went small, and Lively was on the floor, and I think he grabbed like every single offensive rebound that was available to him. Because like Paul George was guarding him, and he was like, "I'm not boxing out there, Lively." And Lively got
That's great.
5 offensive rebounds. So there you go.
I
I don't know. Anything else you saw?
I mean, trying to think of anything else that I saw. You know, I saw right before the game, I saw the 2001 Game 5 comeback game winner from Calvin Booth over the Jazz a million years ago. And I saw Mark Cuban storm the floor with the Mavericks in a collared shirt, and it just tickled me to pieces. Like, I was just sitting in traffic watching it. Just made me think about that. Seeing the Mavericks close out a game at home, or a series at home, pretty awesome. Want to circle back to how cool I thought the crowd was. That was really something. Oh man,
Maxey got hurt.
Maxey got hurt. Yeah, we're gonna have to watch that. I mean, I'm glad he didn't die. I mean, look, I'm a proponent of the charge, but what the fuck was that? That was a dangerous ass play by that guy. Like, either take the charge or don't. Like, that felt like pulling the chair out. Like, that was nuts.
It does, but also not to literally kick someone while they're down. I don't know what possessed Maxey to try to take off from in between the restricted
Look, man, I like the theory that he's got a new girlfriend, because like Maxey always does crazy shit whenever he's dating a baddie. So
there you go. We'll
see what happens. Okay, guys, I'm gonna let Josh go because it's 12:15. I'm sure he's delighted about that. He's probably gonna go edit some stuff for Mavs Moneyball. We had a late. We mixed up who's doing the recap tonight, and our guy Jordan did it over at Mavs Moneyball and just turned in 1,200 words, which is hilarious because he always makes fun of our other writers who write anything over 800 words. So go read that tonight. If anybody wants to talk to me about basketball or anything else, I would love to hang out in here with you guys. So we got a couple more people who want to give shout outs before we go. Leo, shout out for the tip. He says Josh Green Island is turning a profit. And Billy says, and Billy left us a tip. Thank you so much, Billy, for that. All right, guys, I'm going to click the ridiculous intro music. You guys can hang out. Everybody else who is listening on the audio stream, be sure to listen or look into your stream some point on Saturday. Josh and I will be back before the Oklahoma City series. I don't know when. He and I are horrendous about scheduling things whenever there's like not basketball games that actually force us to do it. But we'll figure that out. And everybody have a great Saturday, and we will talk soon.
Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this podcast. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. In hundreds of locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/bluewire to learn more and find a center near you. That's unifydhealing.com/bluewire. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.